Why trading didn't save me, this did instead. Trading didn't save me. I know that's a strange thing to say on a trading channel, but I need you to hear it, because the thing that actually saved me is the reason I'm still here, still consistent, still growing. And if you came to trading the way I did, looking for a way out of something, this might be the most important video you watch this year. I came to trading desperate. Not excited, not curious, not entrepreneurial. Desperate. Desperate for a way out of a life that felt too small, too uncertain, too dependent on other people's decisions about my worth. I needed trading to be the answer, and that need, that raw, urgent, suffocating need, is exactly what made me terrible at it for the first 2 years. Here's the truth nobody says out loud. Trading cannot save you. It cannot rescue you from financial pressure. It cannot fix a broken self-image. It cannot prove to the people who doubted you that you were right. It cannot give you the identity you've been searching for. And the more desperately you need it to do those things, the more reliably it will fail. That's not pessimism. That's the mechanism. What saved me wasn't trading. It was what I had to become in order to trade. And today, I want to show you exactly what that looks like. Here's what the trading world quietly promises you. It promises that if you just find the right system, the right entry, the right strategy, the right edge, financial freedom follows. And with financial freedom comes the rest, the peace, the confidence, the sense that you finally arrived. So you look for the system, you chase the edge, you buy the courses and watch the breakdowns and join the communities. And when the results don't come, when the account bleeds slowly and consistently, you assume the problem is the system. You find a new one, repeat. But let me be honest with you about what's actually happening. The system isn't the problem. You are not the problem either, not in the way that feels like shame, but the version of you that sat down at the charts, desperate, pressured, needing this to work, that version cannot trade consistently. Not because they're not smart, not because they haven't worked hard enough, because they are asking the market to solve a problem the market was never designed to solve. The market doesn't fix self-worth, it reveals it. And what it revealed in me for 2 full years was a person who is running from something, and you cannot build something lasting while you're running. This is where it changes. Shift 1. I stopped needing trading to define me. For the first 2 years, my identity was tied directly to my account balance. Green week, I was someone. Red week, I was nobody. And that oscillation was exhausting in a way that had nothing to do with the market. It was the exhaustion of a person who had outsourced their sense of self to something completely outside their control. Old behavior, P&L as a mirror, good trades as self-worth, bad trades as self-indictment. New behavior, trading as a craft I practice, separate from who I am. My identity lives in my character, my process, my growth, not in today's result. The psychology behind this is something researchers call contingent self-worth, when your sense of value depends on external performance. People with contingent self-worth in trading are not just volatile in emotion, they make worse decisions because every trade carries the invisible extra weight of proving something about themselves. And that weight makes clean, rational execution nearly impossible. A mentor once said something to me that stopped me cold. He said, "The market is the worst therapist you will ever hire. It charges a fortune, it has no compassion, and it tells you nothing about your actual worth." The moment I removed my identity from the outcome, truly removed it, not just intellectually accepted the idea, my execution changed. Not because the strategy changed, because the person executing the strategy was no longer terrified of what a loss meant about them. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how, by Friedrich Nietzsche. Your why cannot be the trade. Your why has to be deeper than the trade, because the trade will fail sometimes, and you cannot afford to fail with it. If you've ever felt your mood, your whole sense of the day determined by a single trade outcome, type yes in the comments, because you're not alone, and knowing that is the beginning of separating yourself from it. Shift 2. I stopped treating discipline as a habit, not an identity. Before the real shift happened, discipline was something I tried to have. I'd set rules, I'd stick to them for a week, then a pressured situation would arrive, a loss I needed to recover, a setup that looked too good, and the rules would bend, and I'd tell myself I needed more discipline, more willpower, more motivation. What I didn't understand is that discipline isn't a resource you run out of, it's a reflection of identity. Old behavior? Using willpower to enforce rules on a self that didn't fully believe them. New behavior? Becoming the kind of person for whom the rules are simply an expression of who they are, not a constraint imposed from outside. There's a quiet but radical difference between a person who says, "I'm trying not to overtrade," and a person who says, "I'm someone who only takes high-quality setups." The first person is fighting themselves. The second person is being themselves. James Clear writes about this, the idea that lasting behavior change happens at the identity level, not the habit level. You don't just change what you do, you change who you are, and then doing the right thing becomes the natural expression of the person you've become. Every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. That's not motivational language, that's architecture. Every rule-following trade is a vote. Every impulsive deviation is a vote, and the person you become is the candidate who wins the most votes, not the one you aspired to be, but the one you actually elect through your daily decisions. Shift 3. I learned that consistency is an inside job. Here's what nobody tells you about consistency. It doesn't come from the strategy. It doesn't come from a better routine or a stricter set of rules or more screen time. It comes from a settled internal state, from a person who is no longer at war with themselves. And I was at war with myself for 2 years. One part of me knew the rules, the other part kept breaking them under emotional pressure. One part wanted to build something sustainable, the other part wanted to recover last week's losses before the weekend. One part knew that sizing up was reckless, the other part needed the hit. 2 traders, 1 body, and the market charges admission for every round of that internal fight. The old behavior? Trying to achieve external consistency while the internal world was in constant conflict. New behavior? Doing the slower, more uncomfortable work of resolving the internal conflict first, understanding what was driving the impulsive decisions and addressing it at the root. For me, the root was simple and devastating to admit. I was trading from fear. Fear of falling behind. Fear of being wrong. Fear of wasting years on something that might not work. And fear-based decisions in the market are like driving with your eyes on the rear-view mirror. You might stay on the road for a while, but eventually you crash. The shift was acknowledging the fear instead of overriding it, sitting with the discomfort instead of medicating it with an impulsive trade, learning to distinguish between market signals and emotional signals, and acting only on the first. Imagine becoming a trader who sits down at the chart genuinely calm, not because nothing is at stake, but because they've done the internal work to know that their response to whatever happens next will be grounded, measured, and aligned with their process. That calmness isn't a personality trait, it's a practice, and it's available to you. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. That space, between price moving and your hand on the mouse, is where your entire trading career lives. Expanding that space through internal work is the most valuable thing you will ever do as a trader. Let me tell you about a Tuesday morning about 14 months into my journey. I'd had 3 losing trades the previous week, all valid setups, all followed the plan, just losses, the kind that are statistically normal but emotionally brutal. That Tuesday morning, I woke up and I didn't want to open the platform. And I remember sitting at the desk, coffee untouched, staring at the login screen and feeling something I hadn't named yet. It wasn't fear of losing money. It was fear of finding out. Finding out whether I was the problem. Finding out whether 2 years of work and investment and belief in this thing was misplaced. Finding out whether the version of me that wanted this was fooling himself. I closed the laptop, and I did something I had never done before in trading. I went for a walk. Not to clear my head before trading, just a walk. No charts, no podcasts, no planning, just me and a question I had been avoiding for months. What is the honest answer to what am I actually trying to get from trading? And the honest answer that came out slow and uncomfortable, the way honest answers always do, was I'm trying to prove I'm not the person who fails. Not to get rich, not for financial freedom, not even for the lifestyle. To prove to myself and to everyone watching that I wasn't someone who quits, who fails, who couldn't figure it out. And that burning need to not be the person who fails was the engine running my worst trading decisions. The revenge trades after losses, the oversized positions when I needed to recover quickly, the rule breaking on setups that felt certain because I needed them to be. I needed trading to save me from an identity I was terrified of. When I got back from that walk, I didn't open the platform. I opened a journal, a personal journal, not a trading journal, and I started writing about who I actually was, separate from the results, what I valued, what I was building, what kind of person I wanted to become that had nothing to do with an account balance. It took about 3 weeks of that before I noticed something different at the screen. The urgency had quieted, not because I wanted the results less, but because I needed them differently. I was no longer trading to escape an identity I feared. I was trading to express an identity I was building. And the person I was building, slowly, imperfectly, day by day, was someone the strategy could actually work for. That walk saved my trading career. Not a new indicator, not a course, not a mentor. A walk, and an honest question I had been avoiding for 14 months. Let me say this plainly. Trading didn't save me. Becoming someone different saved me. And trading became the arena where that transformation happened. The market is ruthless and brilliant in one specific way. It charges you in real time for every gap between who you are and who you need to be. It makes your psychology visible in a way that almost nothing else does. And if you're willing to look at what it's showing you, not just the P&L but the behavior behind it, it becomes the most honest mirror you have ever stood in front of. But the mirror doesn't fix you. You have to do that work. And the work is not about finding a better strategy. It's about becoming a person who doesn't need a trade to win in order to feel like they're winning. A person who can lose 3 trades in a row and come back to the screen genuinely neutral, not suppressing the emotion, but not ruled by it either. A person who follows the plan not because the rules demand it, but because the plan is an expression of who they are. That person exists inside you right now. They're just buried under 2 years of urgency, fear, and the accumulated weight of needing this to work. Clearing that weight is the work, and it starts with one honest question on a quiet morning. What am I actually trying to get from this? Answer it honestly, not the version you'd tell someone else, the version that's true at 6 a.m. when no one is watching and the account is down and the strategy feels uncertain. That answer is your starting point, and your starting point is closer to your destination than you think. Here's what I want to leave you with. If you came to trading looking to be saved by money, by freedom, by finally proving something, I understand that more than you know, and I'm not going to tell you that's wrong. I'm going to tell you that it's not enough. The market will take everything you give it, your capital, your time, your hope, and it will give you back exactly what you bring to it. Bring desperation, get chaotic results. Bring clarity, get consistent results. The shift from desperation to clarity is not a strategy shift, it's a self-shift, and it's the most important trade you will ever make. You are closer than you think. The fact that you're here, watching this, sitting with these questions, willing to look at the uncomfortable version of why trading hasn't worked yet, tells me you have what it takes. Not the knowledge, you probably already have enough knowledge. The willingness to do the internal work. That's rarer than you know, and it's the thing that separates the traders who eventually arrive from the ones who keep starting over. Don't start over. Go deeper. I want to ask you one question before you go. What is the honest answer to what am I actually trying to get from trading? Write it in the comments. Just yours, nobody else's. Because the conversation that starts in that comment might be the one that changes something for you. And if this video landed, if something in here shifted even slightly, please subscribe. Because this channel is for the traders who are doing the real work, the internal work, the kind that doesn't make highlight reels, but makes careers. If that's the trader you're becoming, hit subscribe, turn on notifications. The next video continues this conversation, and I genuinely don't want you to miss it.